Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Shell. Nice to see you in here. Welcome. This is going to be a different type of conversation today, but I think we're going to have a good time. We're so glad that you're joining us here. So just to kind of give you a little context, I've been sharing atheist content on my channel, ever since the first quarter of this year. Really, I think I started maybe at the end of January, beginning of February. Sharing content, and our channel has been growing. And one of the things that's been really important to me, and y'all let us know if there's any audio problems. I have to remind myself to get close to the mic. But the point is, community is a big thing to me, and I want to make sure that we're building community and that we're giving voice for community. So we wanted to kind of sponsor this conversation today around this idea. So today we won't necessarily be talking about everything that's wrong with church. We won't be talking about all the things that are wrong with religion, and we won't be dealing with my favorite subject about all the things that are wrong and dangerous and harmful with superstition. Today, we're going to be having a little bit of a different conversation. We want to talk about community. So before we jump in, let's go ahead and make sure, if you haven't liked the channel already, go ahead and do that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified. And then consider joining one of our community entry points, whether it's Patreon or our YouTube membership program. Hey, you can either even subscribe to our email stuff on our website. At dldd.us. You can also consider volunteering to help the channel and volunteering to help us manage those communities. Hey there, what's up? Good afternoon. I am so tempted to say good morning, and I've been up since like 7, but it's still like, wow. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Like the channel, do all that stuff. Consider volunteering. We need volunteers. Share the video. I always forget to say that part. Yes, share the video. Yes, community. Yes. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So you ready to jump into this?
Yes.
We're going to break this down into 3 phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1, we're just going to be talking about lessons kind of from my past, some things that I've pulled out that have kind of inform my perspective. Phase 2, we're going to talk a little bit more about the foundations of community, what foundations of secular community may look like. And then phase 3, I forgot what phase 3 was. Audio good. Perfect. Thank you. I forgot what was phase 3. Scroll to phase 3. Yeah.
Exploration of message and strategy.
Exploration of message and strategy. And you're going to have to lean in when you talk, because you all soft. There you see, now they can talking like your mama now. But yeah. So we're gonna walk through those, and in these first two phases, my wife is just gonna kind of interview me. But we want to invite you all to also participate in this conversation. While I am somewhat of a subject matter expert here, I don't want to present myself as an expert. As a matter of fact, one of the things that has kept me from fully acting on a lot of these ideals that I've had over the past few years is I wanted more hands and heads at the table. I don't want to. One of the things that I saw happen in church a lot was you get this cult of personality built. Where everybody just kind of circles around this one person and they want to start acting like the one person. Everybody wants to talk like that person. And then you really kind of lose all sense of individuality, all sense of autonomy. And then you get a vision that really reflects one person, and community doesn't thrive like that. That's just a dictatorship. It's a glorified dictatorship. So one of the reasons we want to have these type of conversations is so that we can invite other people in, and so that we can better shape these ideas. I hope that makes sense.
That's what building community is.
Yeah.
Right? In order to build community, you need input. Everyone. Right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's jump into it. I'm going to ask you some questions here. And so since we're talking about or getting into lessons that you've learned, why did some churches grow and others stall? How does the megachurch grow and sustain itself all together?
Yeah. This is actually a pretty interesting lesson that I was able to pull from the past. For me, and I'll see if it's valuable for any of you. And y'all, I'm sure y'all will let me know. I'm sure. What's going on, Michael? What I think what I saw, because I was fascinated with church growth, and I think I've shared that on some of my other videos. But from a sociological perspective, which is what I was getting my degree in at the same time. And so what I found fascinating is that a lot of the information that was being circulated in church growth conferences type of things and in church planning events was stuff that's actually industrial organizational psychology. But it was just kind of being repackaged as revelation from God. This is what God showed me. But so I found that fascinating. But there are some things that I did see that growing churches did tend to have in common. I actually remember Dr. Samuel Chand, who theologian from the Middle East. I don't know if it's fair to call these people theologians, but preacher from the Middle East, and he actually specialized in church growth. And someone asked him, like, what's the difference between a mega church pastor and a small church pastor? And he approached it from a sociological perspective. He did a survey. He did a qualitative survey, and then kind of ran the results. And he said, you know what is what I didn't find that was interesting. He said the people who had the biggest churches weren't the best preachers. The people who had the biggest churches weren't the best pastors. They weren't the people who were the most loving. They weren't the people who were even the smartest people. He said he was actually shocked by that wasn't a common denominator. He said what ended up being a common denominator for the ones that he surveyed was the ones who could put up with enough pain. It was the higher the pain threshold was. And to be sure, some of that pain is self-inflicted, but when I say self-inflicted, I mean self-created. You create this vacuum where you are put on a pedestal. Even when you say, "Oh, don't put me on a pedestal," the environment kind of puts you on a pedestal. The expectation is there. You are the vicar of Christ, the representation of a holy God. So it does create some problems. But there are some things that I saw, and y'all let me know if this is valuable or not. The first thing that I saw was just the relevance of the message. Growing churches tend to have a relevant message, which means that they were preaching something that the people who were coming there really wanted to hear. And you would think that would be a common thing.
The message matters.
Yes, but there are a lot of churches, there are a lot of pastors, and those are a lot of times it's the true believers whose churches don't grow.
I can see that.
Because the true believers are convinced that this voice in my head is how I should determine what I preach. But it's the other ones who've kind of grown up a little bit above that are actually paying attention to what are these people like? They're paying attention to what those people are responding to. And so so you can almost call them like pop churches. Now mega churches are not new. There have been mega churches ever since the start of the Holy Roman Empire. But popular mega churches are new, like concert churches. These things evolved around the 60s, where you start having these huge concert type churches where you have these huge arenas and mass choirs and stuff back in them days. And you have these large singing events and everybody comes over. But church has gotten much more complicated since then because people watch TV now. There's the internet now. So it's really hard to contain that echo chamber. So
the message has to keep your attention.
It has to keep your attention. Yeah. That's right. Like even when I was a pastor, because I was definitely my church was a popular church in the sense that we did popular stuff. Like when this TV show Scandal came out. Oh, I did a whole sermon series titled Scandal. But it was so hard because it was like, oh, I think I did it for Easter too. I think it was Easter. Oh man. Love exact showmanship. Oh my goodness. Which is that music part that's actually the next one, but definitely relevant message. It made me, I'm not going to say this pastor's name. Doesn't matter. Nobody would know him, but there's a pastor in our city. And I've known him for years, and at one time his church was kind of like up and coming. Like there were like 100, 200 members. And at that time he started to build this building. He wanted to build the first dome in Dothan. And then the architects messed up, so it became an octagon instead. And then he said,
Wasn't
well,
quite.
the Lord wanted us to have an octagon because the number 8 is the number of new beginnings. And preachers will mumbo jumbo some stuff in a minute. But this guy, his church did go through some hardships, but a part of the problem was, as popular preaching was arising, right? Yeah, as popular preaching was coming up, he couldn't keep up. So like his church, watch this. His church was all black, like 100% black, 100% black. He did a 12-week series on interracial marriages. He was like, dude, I get the point, but there's no interracially married people here. Like, what are you doing? So now he has this 800-seat facility and only has about 30 people that shows up. And so, and that's why I tell people, it's not the beauty of the building, right? Even though good churches typically do invest in their building. And I say the word good churches, that's kind of crazy. They typically, that is absolutely right. That is, which is why you will notice those churches are typically not liked by the more traditional churches. The more traditional churches, they don't like them because they see those type of churches as deviating from the gospel. You're deviating from the message, which they are in a sense, but they're socializing it. And so it's those churches that will be more willing to speak up on social justice issues at most times. But however, their belief system is still so shallow, it really keeps them from any depth of engagement.
Limiting their action, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, message is definitely important. For example, I could never successfully. Yes, there's a lot of pick and choose. Yes. Yep. I could never successfully pastor a Christian church again. Not even because I'm an atheist. It's because the message that I'd want to preach is not attractive to Christians, which is one of the things I do highlight in some, excuse me, in one of our other videos, is that a lot of pastors are slaves to the congregations.
Right.
It is a very interesting relationship.
Some people in the church will tell the pastor or suggest, hey, don't preach that anymore, or we want to hear about this.
They damn sure will. They are not shy about telling you what they like and what they don't like. Man, yes, yes, that's it. Yes, thank you. Glad to see you in here. Some people have been conditioned to feel that they need to be told that they can't make it without the super ghost. And so when you try to have conversations with them, even if, like, because I remember I was in the closet for 10 years, so I definitely tried to have conversations with believers, still respecting their book and respecting their approach to their book, and tried to use some of these things in the book to show them that, hey, you may not be approaching life realistically. And even when I could use Jesus's words to do it, it was still like, nah, I don't want to hear that. Put that one back up. I didn't get to read it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Very much so. Very much so.
And what you find is not many want to elevate or grow. Even using the word progression or progress, they have an aversion to. Almost.
Yes. Yeah. I think one thing I realized even early on as a Christian, even when I was still a believer, I realized that that we could pick our own programming. And that ultimately people pick their own programming. So we often say, oh, music changed somebody. That was a big conversation in our community. If you listen to this music, you're going to be this type of way. And it's actually what they're seeing a correlation, but they're not quite understanding the causation. It's not it's not this music is making me this type of way. I'm choosing this type of path. I'm choosing these type of ideologies. I'm choosing to identify with that, I just realized this button is unbuttoned. Yeah, it is definitely a slave mentality for real. Like you inculcate yourself in it. Oh yes. Yeah, come on, man. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Look at there. Wow. Always. So That's the relevance of the message. The next thing is quality of music, which some of you have already hit on in the chat, right? Um, and this is these two. Most churches in largely populated areas can get up to 5,000 members by just getting these two right. And so the amount of churches who can't get these two right shows you how bad the critical thinking skill level is. Because and I do remind people, though mega churches are popular, they represent less than 2% of actual churches. Over 80% of churches are actually less than 300 members, so it's actually over 90% is less than 300 members. And so it's just beautiful. But quality of music, if you get your music right, and again, that was a balance as well too, because I think one of the things you'll find out about community, it draws a big emotion. Yes, music is you won't find a mega church with a bad music team. Well, there was Jamal Bryant at one time.
Yeah, they work.
And I was and DMV. The DMV area doesn't count. I don't know what it is about the DMV area, but their mega church music departments were
It's a little behind.
I was like, what's going on, man? Like, what's happening here? Get with the times. But I guess I was just a millennial,
There are some who still sing old hymns that are in the book and say, grab the book.
Yes.
Let's turn the page such and such to sing.
What amazes me is the amount of churches who still sing about the blood. I'm like, okay, at this moment, we've seen enough in society to be weirded out about being covered in blood. This should not be something we should be singing about. And you call me the Satanist, like what? But that and those are always weird songs. Oh my goodness, those bloody songs. But yeah, the music has to be right. And what you'll notice is when churches make that decision, that's not a spiritual decision.
No, it's practical.
It's a practical decision. It's a social decision. It's them paying attention. And watch this. Though the environment is manipulative, it is definitely right. Blood everywhere. Though the environment is manipulative, a lot of times that's not the intent. And when I say that, I'm not trying to excuse anybody. I'm really trying to expose how disengaged these people are with the processes that are going on. So a lot of pastors know the importance of music in their messages and in their sermons and in their services, but they literally think it's because God does something with the music. They don't realize that we actually respond chemically to music. We respond chemically to sound. We respond chemically to even. Okay, now I don't want to sound spooky, right? But I've used this to explain to people before. You can walk into a room where two people were just talking negatively about you and have not heard the conversation. And you can just walk in the room and sometimes you can just feel
the energy,
oh
right?
my, what was that? What's going on? Now, mind you, a lot of that is inference, right? Yeah. So a lot of what we call intuition is coming from our own ability to infer things. So you're actually smarter than you think you are. You just don't engage with it a lot. But so your eyes, everything that you're seeing, your mind is processing that like a billion times faster than you can ever imagine. And so your mind has already paid attention to the subtle shifts in the body posture and little stuff like that. It's maybe the shifting of the eyes when you walked in the room. See, your mind has processed that faster than you could actually think about it. But in the experience you're having is like, oh, I felt those thoughts, And so, yes, in that sense, thoughts do have a presence. And a lot of times what's happening in this music moment, you're getting this melodic. Yeah, I was trying to make sure I said that word right. You're getting this melodic invitation to engage. And then you're giving a script in the songs, which, mind you, I'm not saying any of this is bad. I'm saying that my problem is content more than anything else. Because if this was happening and the words you were singing were healthy, I'd want to be there with you. Oh my goodness, if we're there and we're singing healthy words and words that are true and not make believe and are not making me think something is going to happen in my life. Now listen, I love the sound of it. Yeah. See, now that's going to make me want a rabbit trail. But that's the power of music, right?
Yeah.
That's
We
the
still
beauty of
turn on
music.
Fred Hammond once in a while.
Oh,
Fred,
yes.
the musicality is just
Like, I like Fred. Fred does,
yeah,
like, he does funny stuff like that because and this, and you know, and we'll talk about this in more detail in a later conversation because this is a big deal. I think one of the overlooked benefits of churches is it creates opportunity for artists, you know,
yes,
especially for the
yes,
black
it
community,
does. Yeah.
especially for the black community. Like, I think like 99% of our artists come from the church world. You know what I'm saying? Thank
That was a
you.
rabbit trail.
I just be trailing. I'll see a rabbit and I'll trace it. It's like squirrel, you know, just be gone. But no, music is definitely that was definitely a big thing, and so I think you'll see that as common denominators. Yes, Baroque music. Oh, well, you know, I don't know why. Like when I really want to think and concentrate, that is the type of music that I prefer. You know, and which I'm very eclectic, so I really don't have a preference. I go from everything.
You're a musician.
Well, that is true, and you know, I have an appreciation for art. Period. I love art. You know, I love art because I love people. I have an appreciation for people. That anybody who has an appreciation for art is ultimately, well, I don't want to say anybody. Yeah, there's some people who just like the art. They don't like the people at all.
Yeah.
There are people who love Beyonce's music or love Taylor Swift's music, but don't like them as people.
Yeah. But you know what? When you're going through the week and you're going through things that are happening at work or with family, whatever it is, and then you get to church and that Sunday they may sing a song that resonate with your experience.
Oh yeah.
And that helps to bring that emotion out. You know?
Don't it though?
Yeah.
I know it used to. And see, I was a singer, I was a worship leader, and back then I wouldn't have like it is a super language. Oh man, okay, I want to find that quote now. But you know, I wouldn't have said it this way back then because I didn't know back then. I thought that I was just following the leading of the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit was just using me because that's what everybody was saying. Boy, the Lord was using you. And I didn't realize that actually what's going on here is very human, it's very natural, and there's actually some beauty to it. That with our own voices and with the instruments we can play, that we can soothe each other's
Even with
man. Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, it's just we're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, so the next one is the excellence of children's ministries. Now, not all mega church. Well, no, every mega church. Music is universal. Yes, every successful mega church you will find has just like a state of the art children's ministry. And when I say mega at this moment, I'm talking about those who are 15,000 plus members. They have heavily invested in children. And it's funny, some of these churches have cracked the code in getting children excited about education or indoctrination. Now, you know, get them, grab the bloody mind control book. Yes. You know, it's if what these churches weren't doing, if what these churches were doing wasn't indoctrination, then they'd have cracked the code on education. Because a lot of these churches take such an innovative investment towards their children's ministry. And I'm talking like there's a church in South Carolina where where the children slide down into children's church. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. Cool.
There's a church in Dothan, one of the mega churches here. Each zone, like you got the K through 3 zone and the 4 through 5 zone and the 7 through 8 zone. They got all of these zones, and each one is decoratively, like, not just like pictures on the wall. It is architecturally designed to capture the child's imagination. It's almost like being at Seussville at Universal Studios. And that gets those children really excited. And they're, you know, the instructors are really hyped. Yeah. Welcome to Kingdom Kids, where we're going to do these type of things and all of that stuff. They've cracked the code there.
Mascots too.
Oh,
Stuff and everything.
Oh, Crystal Cathedral was amazing. Music was on point. The mascots. They have the mascots, and then they put a lot of thought into how they take this antiquated message and make it relevant to these kids.
And invite.
Yes, and that's all because of their passion for Jesus. I know teachers who claim to be passionate about education that can't do that. It's amazing. And it works. It works. So no, I now the sad thing is it is indoctrination. What they're like, because they're not teaching you how to think. They're not teaching you how to think. They're not teaching you ways of knowing. They're telling you this story. Yeah, a mascot is crazy. The last church I was on staff at, we had a mascot for the children's church.
Rocky.
He was Rocky.
Looked like Chucky's suit almost, but
Like Chucky.
yeah.
Like the dog.
No, when you go to Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
Was it a rat? Oh my, that's I gotta have love for rats too. Ooh, yes, yes. Which Yeba influences some of that into her work.
Yeah,
What's up? What's up? Okay. So yeah, children's church. They're like the mega churches. If there's a mega church in your city that's a popular one, not like if it has a denominational name in it, it's probably not like popular. When I say popular, I don't mean like people don't like it. I mean popular in the same way we call pop music. These type of churches are pop churches. If there's a pop mega church in your city, and you'll know it because like the pastor is like a celebrity at these places, right? Go check out the children's church. Don't even go to the Sunday service. Or a lot of those churches give tours of their facilities. So that way you don't even have to hear the message. Go on it's a beautiful day. Yes. See, we're going to have more conversations about music.
Yeah.
Because in my last live, people were sharing secular, atheist artists. And I was like, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But yeah, go take a tour of one of those buildings and see if they take a special interest in their children's wing. I know Apostle Ron, when he was in Greenville, they built this big, beautiful building outside behind a mall, and then had built a gym out of sprung instant structures. Have y'all ever seen a sprung instant structure before? They're like big bubble tents. It's amazing. But he built a gym on there, opened it up for the community, and he bought the closed down movie theater and converted the movie theater to the youth place.
Wow, that was genius.
Which it was like dope. It was just cool. Oh yeah, that's Texas. That's definitely Texas.
Well, a lot of areas have a church on every corner.
Yes. Yeah. Well, see, music has a way to music influences us. It moves us. It's a part of who we are, and that's why churches shouldn't have a monopoly on using music to uplift people, and to encourage and empower and to create moments of reflection. I want to see more humanist artists in this world, and I think part of the way that happens is by creating humanist community where those artists can have platforms.
Have the space, yeah.
Whew. All right, so that was excellence of children's ministry, engagement of the members. Those other churches. Oh man, bless you. Y'all are blessing my heart. I can't get out of the language yet. I'm still working on it. That's right, because people can bless each other. The fate, right? Favor ain't fair. That's just the craziest thing in the world, to have a God who doesn't show favoritism but also shows favor. I don't get it. But the engagement of members, larger churches, mega churches, your pop churches, one thing that they do exceptionally well is they create a life after Sunday for their members, for their community. Right? That is. And if the secular community can learn anything from them, I think we can learn a lot in that regard. Is that they do that. That's not super ghost led, right? It's not some super ghost, secular blessings. That's right. I appreciate that. That's right. Man. Oh, but this is so beautiful. Y'all are wonderful. But this isn't super ghost led when they do this. The pastors and teams that specialize in this do this by paying attention to the members of their church and like the things that they're doing. And so and this is an important thing to remember, because a lot of times we create events, but then there's nothing after the event, and so then our definition of community becomes just seeing each other at the events or just, but
it's not really building connection.
It's not. Communities don't just create space for individuals, right? They also create space for groups and group activity. So when you think of creating space for individuals, yes, please. The lectures, the shows, meetings are overwhelmingly for the benefit of the individual. Sunday morning is for the individual of it's for the benefit of the individual. You know, the Super Bowl, believe it or not, is for the benefit of the individual. Even though groups can benefit together, ultimately it's just for the individual. But a lot of churches have taken that extra step and have created small groups, cell groups, volunteer group teams, which are basically affinity groups. A lot of them are just built off of interest. A lot of those hyper growth churches, so churches like Life Church, well, I think Joel Osteen's church is pretty much the same way. I wasn't as in those circles. I thought Joel was boring. He was a nice guy. He was a nice guy, very nice. But I'm black, and so my charismatic is like I did like loud church. You know, I didn't. You know, I wasn't gonna run around, but I didn't mind if people ran around. You know. But so I did like I like more what's that word, theatrical church.
Yeah.
I preferred the more animated churches, and that part of that was because I got saved in Pentecostal churches, and so if your church wasn't animated, I thought the Super Ghost wasn't there, and if Super Ghost isn't here, then what are we doing? Oh man, did I get?
You didn't read that one.
Okay, because I be trying not to miss. That were already there. Yes. Oh my goodness. I know that's right. I'm glad y'all here hanging with us, man.
You know, the funny thing is like this is not uncommon, the small groups thing, because we see it in the workplace.
Yeah.
You know, even where we work, we have little groups you can join
Mhm.
based on likes and interests. So,
Yep.
it's definitely something that is utilized.
That's right. Because, you know, it's not like the only thing we're going to have in common is that we don't believe in a God.
Yeah.
And that's what people realized in the church. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think that's what pastors realized in the church is that it's not just, dang, what did I say? I forgot what I said. What did I just say?
You talk about it's not just in the church.
What came after that though?
We got to rewind.
Can we rewind this? Because I literally don't remember the sentence I was saying, but I felt like it was gonna be good. I felt like it was gonna be a valuable nugget. Maybe if one of y'all remember, y'all can type it in the chat. But it's basically, oh yeah, it's basically realizing pastors realize that it's not just God isn't the only thing they have in common. That's what the smart pastors realize is that it's not just our belief in God that brings us to church every Sunday. It's the type of music we like that brings us. It's yeah, you can put it up. I'll finish the thought and go right to it. Yes, black non-believers stand up. Tallahassee, that's right down the road, literally an hour away. Well, it's either an hour there or an hour from there. We have a time difference there. But yeah, it's you begin to realize that okay, if I want to build something strong, then I can't just found it off of this one thing. So they start building these other these interest groups. So like in the 90s, it was like singles ministries and marriage ministries and men ministries and yes.
Or even just couples in general.
Yes, that's right. And that is one of the things that I try to remind people of is that religion is a tool. It's a and for the longest time, religion was a nation building tool. That's really what it was. Like people have turned national politics into superstition, you know, because and that's what this was. This was national politics. That's why there's so much propaganda. So much propaganda. And so okay, yeah. So it's creating space for those groups. And so we have to do the same. I think that's something we can learn from in the secular community, in the atheist community, is that it's not just our non-belief in God that unites us. We have other things in common, and we don't all have to be united on all of the same things. For example, I don't like sports. I don't watch them. I'll play, but I don't want to watch them. Now, part of that is because I have horrible eyes. I've always had horrible eyes. Sometimes you can be watching my lives, and one of my eyes will float the fuck off and do its own thing, okay? So trying to watch, especially before there were big screen TVs, you know, or at least before poor people could afford them,
yeah.
I couldn't watch those little bitty people running back and forth, go, you know, all over the thing. I didn't know.
What did they do?
So I never developed that affinity, you know. But I do like music, and it's you know. So the point is, people have different things that they like, and that's the thing. That's why we're using that word secular. It's not just that it's atheist space; it's secular space. And so it's every part of us that we want to explore, that we want to build community around.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's my baby, man. That's my baby, you know. Yeah. Okay. And so that was the engagement of members.
Yeah. So with that, how do we measure the value of the church experience?
Okay. And for those of you who are just coming in, we're just talking right now. We're in phase 1 of this conversation, and we're talking about lessons from my past, maybe some things that I kind of identify as somewhat jewels that I think we can learn from in creating secular space for community. And if this sounds very well thought out, it's because it is. We've been working on this stuff.
Everything.
Oh my goodness. We've been working on this stuff literally for years, and I've been experimenting with these ideas for a very long time. So the question was, how do we measure the value of the church experience? Okay. So and now this is something, none of this stuff is stuff that I came to recently. This is stuff that I was coming to understand while I was a pastor. I remember one time telling one of my friends, because he was a prophet and I was an apostle at that time. Don't ask. It was yes. They are the center of the movie. It's the people. Man, I'm going to want to talk to you more about that, because that's one of the things that I write about, that we're writing about in the book, The Case for Religion, is that religion has always been people-centric, that the gods of any religion are obsessed with people. And so when people have bad ideas, God has bad ideas, you know? Oh, man. Wow. Dang, that's cold-blooded. That is cold-blooded. Like, whoa. Well, you're watching men run up all down the field all day, and they wearing tights and all that. And oh man, wow, that sounds like my grandma. Like I feel like Cookie would say something like that. But so one of the things, I love it. Oh, that's funny. A comfortable location. Like that's what you really begin to find. Like when you actually pay attention to what people really value about their churches, especially in the popular churches, it's not what a lot of people think it is. From the outside looking in, you really think it's the theology, but if you pay attention, you find out these churches are not very grounded in any theology. It's just whatever the preacher's feeling, which can change from season to season, because the preacher, the preacher feels like he's a representative of God, but instead what he actually becomes is a conduit of the people. He becomes a conduit of their fears, of their expectations, of their hopes, of their struggles. And then he just kind of gets stuck there with them. Instead of being a thermometer, he becomes the thermostat. No, is that right? No, instead of being the thermostat, he becomes a thermometer. He literally represents the temperature of that people. The same way we created God in our own image, those people end up creating that pastor in their own image. That's kind of interesting, right? That's kind of interesting.
I almost want to say that's good, Doc. In church when you yell out.
Yes. Yep. Pretty much. Like that literally is what it was like. But yeah, comfortable location. I had some other notes here, but it was really more stuff about the like I remember Bishop Eddie Long's church had the movie theater chairs in it. Comfortable seating. Oh man, I was so tempted to fall asleep in that church, and I mean, oh wow, yikes! Yeah, I've had a few conversations with my Hebrew Israelis, but yeah, the chairs were super duper comfortable. Oh yeah, they do. For denominational churches, a lot of that stuff is dictated. Oh, but then that's also it's been a rising practice over the past even longer, I guess 20 years now. Over the past 20 years now, that's been a rising practice in modern churches too, and the more popular churches, the non-denominational churches, where the pastor writes the sermon for all the campuses. So if he plants you, he writes that sermon for all campuses, which wasn't a bad idea. It was just, if you're doing this and the reason you're telling people you're doing this is because God wants us to do this, I think you're robbing people of the actual reason you're doing this. And that is one of the traps you fall into as a pastor. As a pastor, you do feel like you can't be honest with people about why you're doing something. Not. That was a struggle I had for real. Like if I wanted to do something, which my church was different because I really didn't give a damn, you know. But you know, if you want to do something and you say, hey guys, I'm thinking about doing this, somebody, what did the Lord say you should do that? What did you pray about that? And so pastors get in the habit of saying the Lord said when they have a new idea, you know.
I wonder, is that partly because of the consequence, right? You may get someone to leave or someone to expose something,
Yes.
you know, like consequence ways.
Oh yeah.
Pastor,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah.
So yeah, comfortable location. That is so true. That is so true. A weekly valuable message, you know, and I think that's what for for those of you who were believers and you were churchgoers, and I think that's something people don't realize. All believers are not churchgoers. There is a hefty amount of believers who are not churchgoers. Like they go every now and then, but they ain't no member of nobody church. You know, they love the Lord, but you know, and that's why a lot of times the statistics are horribly exaggerated when it comes to stuff about Christians, because we're not making these proper delineations, man. We're not making these proper delineations. But yeah, they get this weekly valuable message that most of them see as value. Some people say like, oh, people used to literally say, this is my pick me up. You know, this is my check-in. It's like coming in to get filled up, you know, get filled up. Filled up. Is that what you're doing? Yeah. That's what we sang that too. We sang that. Yep. Till I overflow. I want to run over. Yeah. We sang some weird stuff. See, it wasn't just that some of the songs were, because there were a lot of songs that were emotionally crippling. There are a lot of songs that were just really damaging and toxic. But then there were just other songs that were just ridiculous. Just flat out, and that fill me up till I overflow. I want to run over.
The Kirk Franklin songs you pointed out, like it's a good beat.
It's a dope beat.
I can't remember. It wasn't Smile.
Tell me how Christian these lyrics sound. I'm not going to sing the song. I'm just going to say the lyrics. I don't want to love nobody but you. Those are the whole song. I don't want to love nobody but you. I don't want to. That's the whole song. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not even Christian. Like it's not Christian to just say I don't love nobody but God. Like what the? Like, but Kirk's lyrics. Kirk literally just hears what he wants to hear in his head, and then he goes for it. And he goes for it, man. It's insane. It's insane. So many. Yes. That was a thing. That was a thing. So
right. So what else do we measure value?
Personal development and therapy. That's really what a lot of people go to church for. Now and honestly, that is a great idea, but church has not been a great vehicle for it. I think church can be a great vehicle for it, but I don't think there's ever any really deep development. You know, can you feel me, right? I don't think there can be any real development if it's attached to superstitions, man. Yeah, it doesn't make it. Waiting for Jesus to come fill me up, like that's just like odd. That's ridiculous. This is no. I don't want to be filled up. I don't, you know. And hey, listen. No offense to anybody who does want to be filled up. Now, hey, you get filled up however you want to. You enjoy your life. Now that's life. That is life. I am very life affirming, and that means something different than what it means to most people. But I appreciate life and all the shades and colors that it goes to. I am loving this. So yep. Of course, we've hit the music, energetic and engaging music. People like concerts, you know, and you can't afford to. Okay, we playing games now, huh? Everybody can't afford to go to, you know, a Beyonce concert every week. And so at your church, you get mini Beyonce every week, you know. And Lord knows you're going to get some people who think that that's who they are, because they're going to give you a show. But we like that show. I don't think they're, you know, I think I can appreciate the church experience a lot more now that I'm an atheist than I ever could when I was attached to the superstition. Because when I was attached to the superstition, it's like, oh, you ain't praising God, right? Or why are you wearing this and you praising God? What, it was a bunch of stuff that just didn't matter, and one wasn't even really paying attention to these actual powerful things that were happening with the music and everything. Maya, it's Bad Science Sunday. I hope I said it right.
And then some people are finicky. Some people go for the music. Some people only go for the sermons.
Oh yes,
they won't show for the beginning.
as such was some of us, right? There were some of us who would just go for the music, and as soon as the offering plate hit up, all right, time for me to go, Or then there was others who would come like 45 minutes. Oh man, kumbaya, hilarious. There was some people who come 45 minutes late so they could miss the music because what they really wanted was this message. And mind you, in the popular churches, the message is not about sin every Sunday. The message is not about, and as a matter of fact, if you're following the series I'm doing, TikTok Theology, you'll see what a lot of these messages are about, and most of them are just trauma bonds. It's just all, hey, we're all struggling, but we're gonna struggle together, and there's some beauty in that. But they be struggling with stuff like, okay, like for years I struggled to pay my bills. For years, like real talk, for years I struggled to pay my bills. It was only when I was deconstructing and deconverting, it is so much more fun. Oh man, you got to go to a few, But it's only when I started deconverting and deconstructing that I realized that I was treating things as miracles. I was treating things as impossible that were entirely possible. I think it was the mouse. I was treating things as impossible. Like, so anytime I could pay my rent, I was treating it like a miracle. Like, oh my God, look what God did.
Like,
how did this happen? And like, that's not a healthy way to live. Yeah. And that's why I do speak against superstition so strongly, because those are some of the insidious, not the glory hole. Oh my. Those are some of the insidious things that people don't catch, that people don't know about, like that are happening to people. And so, but I was going to do a whole video on that about, yay. I was going to do a whole video on that because, I'm very neurodivergent. So I will have just weird outbursts. I think people thought I had like Tourette's at one time because I do stuff like that. Yep. If you're not under attack, you're not a true Christian. So that's the message. The whole message is struggling. You're struggling. You're struggling.
And somebody brought up being on your knees. Like, why do you have to get on your knees?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Into that struggle,
submission. Yes. Yeah, it does play into that struggle and trauma. And because the whole idea, this is the message, you need help. And can't nobody help you but God. You cannot help yourself. Other people cannot help you. So I have to consistently remind you of how helpless you are by preaching these messages that are reminding you of your struggle.
That's dangerous.
It is. Well, because then you never move past your struggle. You never start actually struggling forward. And then you actually, and this was my point, then you start struggling with things that are way too easy to get past. And so, like, I could have been paying my bills. I want to have that conversation in depth later on, because it wasn't that I was spending my money elsewhere. I didn't make enough money. I simply didn't make enough money, and for whatever reason, I didn't think I could make any more money. Like, and so now I can have a conversation about that all day long, because I am 100%. It started. I'll be honest with you. It started as being sincerely concerned with the state of Black people everywhere you find them. Everywhere you find my people. I was like, oh, snap, we got to do something. And so then it became, oh, snap, we're all primates. We're in this together and we're all struggling. And so I've gotten very interested in economics since then, and getting a more solid understanding of how economics work, so that I can help people. Because one thing I know about is, and you've seen it, especially being back in my hometown, I brought her to my hometown, to Dothan. But you've seen there are so many people who don't know how to be economically responsible with their own lives. And it's, when I sound that way, I sound like bad. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that they're necessarily lazy. I'm saying they don't even believe that they're capable. That's the danger of this message. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Exactly. That's us. It's us. Hello. Spoiler alert, right? We're the apes, right? Suffering is a Christian specialty, and if you continue to preach, that, and you continue to let that be a mindset for people, then it won't happen for everybody. But there are certain people it robs them of their ability to believe in themselves. It robs them of their ability to make even better decisions, because then they think their decisions don't even matter.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's whatever God wants. It's
Whatever God
God's
wants.
will. Man.
Let God take the wheel.
Yep. He said, let a Christian call Jesus next time there's an emergency. Which, speaking of which, my wife and I, we always talk about these stories because she's heard them so much when she was a child. I've heard them so much. I'm sure some of you have heard them, where someone would be like, oh yeah, I was getting robbed, and then I said Jesus, Jesus, Jesus 7 times, and they didn't rob me. Well, number one, if this case is the truth, if Jesus didn't save you after saying his name the first time, this is a horrible person. You know, is a horrible guy. But what I ended up finding out is that you'd be surprised how many Christians are just liars, just flat out lying. Oh, it happens a lot, man. But yeah, consistent interactive childcare, which we hit.
Ooh, which is necessary.
All right. Are we back? Oh, somebody got to let me know. Did y'all hang on this whole time? Yay! Okay, so I got an impromptu. My wife has this little gadget for her phone. Oh, you can see my thumb. I don't want to see my thumb. But she has this impromptu gadget. So looks like the internet had went out, but it's coming back up. So we're just getting rescheduled. Thank you all for holding on. Like, you have no idea how much that means to me. You guys, I got to come up with a more plural word. You all doesn't have the same ring. Beautiful people. I could just say you people. You people. No.
Beautiful people.
Oh, you beautiful people. There we go.
Beautiful people. Okay.
Right. And it looks like it's coming back up on the laptop. And then I don't even remember where I was, but I was saying something.
Wait, somebody said praise be. Did y'all watch Handmaid's Tale where they say blessed be?
Oh, blessed be the fruit. Ever since we saw that, that's like been a thing for her. Every time anybody says praise be, blessed be, that's all she hears is blessed be the fruit. Woohoo! Hallelujah. It's coming. I see it kind of popping up on here. Yay. Yay. My wife is like the man of the house. You see how she's running around getting stuff done, and I'm sitting here talking in the camera, looking at myself.
That's what we got to do. Okay.
Man, support, partnership, right? That's the whole thing. We don't do submission. Oh, there we go. All right, we can take me off. That holding it was bothering me, and I'm like, I'm holding it all awkward. Well, I've never used it, so I didn't. Oh, it has a stand.
Yeah, you can put it out like this.
Oh, bruh. Oh man. So
that was me, y'all. That's me.
Okay, that was. You can take. Yeah, give my phone back.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Well, if you just. Like, I was afraid I was gonna break it.
No.
I break stuff, y'all.
Yes, tell it, Maya.
Oh no, almost. What did Maya say?
Always running around.
Right? I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, where would I be? Where would I be? Oh man. And that's why we do marriage as partnership. Partnership works so well in a marriage. Other than that other thing, that submission thing, I don't know where people get that from. Like one has to be greater than the other. One has to be the head. It's like, well, we both got heads, so I think we should both use them. Yeah, we should both use those. And again, I think I told y'all before, I got ruined by Coming to America. That scene, it worked for me. Watching that woman jump up and down and bark like a dog and just whatever you like. I was like, oh no, that is not attractive to me. I do not want that. And that's something like I even, we teach our kids little stuff like that. Like we don't teach our kids gender roles. Like they all know how to cook. They all know how to move trash. We teach our daughters, don't be impressed by somebody buying you dinner. You can buy dinner. You can buy your own food. Don't be one of these, Anyway, whole nother other subject, right? All right. So, personal and family counseling. I was going to say churches do offer personal and family counseling. I wish they didn't. Oh my goodness. And even when I was a pastor, like the last few years when people would come to me for marital counseling, I started to realize, oh, you're not serious. There's no way you're serious about your marriage and you're going to a pastor for counseling. Don't do that. Don't do that. Man, I'm going to want to know more about that story, period. Especially, and you're going through that with your daughters too.
Hey.
You know what? I guess so. I guess so. All things theology. We'll keep an eye on you, all things. Yeah. So, they offer personal and family counseling. Another thing is a place for people to explore themselves, and I think these are things that we often don't think about when we think of church. We just think of the indoctrination aspect. A place for people to, people do a lot of spiritual exploration in the church. It's not like the large people, like, even at the large churches, it's only going to be like 30 or 40 people, but you'll see them, like, they'll go to church on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and early Sunday morning to be, just to get in there and just kind of meditate and to listen to music and to, just kind of explore themselves, and that's something that religion doesn't have to have a monopoly on. And that's something that spirituality doesn't have to have a monopoly on. Oh, that's crazy. That is frightening. There's already way too much religion in schools as it is. Like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was a pastor for a decade. Actually, a little bit over it, more than a decade. Oh yeah. And I was involved in ministry for 2 decades. Another thing you get is opportunities for leadership. And that's something that people don't always get that, outside of work and home. After you've gotten out of school, where else do you really get that? There are civic organizations, but churches make that available for people. People get to teach Bible school, Bible study, or they get to take over the children's department or the youth department or the music department, the outreach department. So churches do a great job of creating auxiliaries for that give people an opportunity. Oh yeah. I love it. That is hilarious. Holy snap. Holy Mandingo. Interesting. That I almost want to say, I think I saw that movie. You're right. Yeah, I love that. And opportunities for performers, which we kind of hit earlier. And then the last one, this one, the popular mega churches, they're good at it. People call it love bombing, but they just have an over-the-top embracing atmosphere. Even when their doctrine and theology doesn't always allow them to make good on that during complicated situations that mess with their dissonance a little too much, such as their favorite singer. Well, you knew your favorite singer in the church was sleeping around, and that wasn't a problem. But once they get pregnant, now it's like, we want to be all embracing, but now we can't anymore because of this. And, but from day one, it's just like, oh, it's beautiful. You walk into on the campuses of a lot of these churches. Yeah. They're there with big cards that are like bright yellow and orange that says, "Welcome. We love you. Glad you're here." And then they're hugging you. Oh, yes. Ooh, the Intergalactic Church of the Universe. I kind of like that. I am into that level of foolishness. I am, man. And that is the other part is it does keep them in there. But again, I think that's something that secular community can learn from. Is create how do we in the secular community create opportunity for people who have hobbies that are actually that create value and all of that good stuff. Well, yeah, it's all culty. It's definitely. I mean, they believe in a yeah. But then the thing that I always like to point people out, but even when you remove the superstition away, it looks no different than anything else we do in the society. So stuff like that, I do like. I get it because of the doctrine, but then the other thing I'm like, but then I know people who go to business conferences that are designed the exact same way. The business conference, there's going to be music, there's going to be ushers, so because the church has not created any of these experiences, which is that was an odd thing that I found is that I found that a lot of people outside of church felt like church invented these things, and I'm like, no, like the only way that could happen would be if the church was getting this from God, and we as atheists know that a God doesn't, or believe that a God doesn't exist. So where are they getting this stuff from? People indeed. They're getting it from people.
So with that and knowing the lessons and know what it takes to actually build something of that magnitude, what do you think the purpose? What do you think about the purpose of the secular community as opposed to suspicious community?
Superstitious. All right.
Superstitious.
You said suspicious community, which I think that works. I think that works. It's suspicious. It's pretty. It's suspect to me. It's suspect to me. But yeah.
What is the purpose?
Yeah, because and we're in phase 2 of our dialogue now, which now we want to kind of talk about the foundations of community, right? So if we're talking about secular community, we need secular revivals. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They do be suspicious. That's what I said. Like for real, right? Oh man, mimetically. Oh, I love that. I love that. So when we're talking about like building secular community, I want us to let's deal with some of the foundations. And so the question is about purpose. What would be the purpose of secular community? And so when I think about this, I kind of go think about it from the avenue of well, what is the problem with superstitious community? And it's not necessarily the things that we just highlighted. I think one of the problems is it's just not a good way to connect. At the end of the day, if in order for you and I to connect, in order for you and I to have a relationship, there has to be this super ghost in between us. Like, how does there and I think that's the disappointment that a lot of people end up experiencing in church communities, is that you feel like you have these relationships with people that you soon find out you don't. You think that these are people, and I'm not trying to villainize anybody here. I'm really trying to humanize the situation. But for people who've gone through it, you believe that you have this relationship with these people, and these people love you, and that they love you unconditionally, and because that's the language they're using. But the one thing that I encourage people to understand is that, baby, these are children. They don't know the words they're using, so don't take their word for nothing, right?
So you set yourself up for disappointment.
Oh yes, oh yeah, yeah. The moment they had an imaginary friend, especially an imaginary friend who can tell them what to think about you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a problem, you know. This is exactly right. Man, this is exactly right. And so and that's true. Like if secular community kind of pays attention to these things, we can go ahead and stoke the fires and get this thing going sooner. And so the purpose of secular community to me is just be a better way to connect.
I love that.
You know,
it's simple, better way to connect.
Be a better way to connect, and you don't. Yeah, right. That I know I do. You know. Oh man. Stoking fires. You gotta. Sometimes you gotta throw a bigger party.
Yeah.
You know,
and it may upset some people.
That was a thing.
Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. That was a popular trope in the 90s. You know, somebody would throw a party, and so you have to go throw a bigger party, you know. Shun me. Exactly. Because now that's the problem with the connection piece, because you were never really connected to me. You were like, we used to sing it. The Jesus in me loves the Jesus in you. That's my way of saying I don't love you. I don't love you. It's just the Jesus in you that I love. This might be one of the reasons why. Yeah. Well, like I was so gone, which is probably why you're probably glad that I got a marriage out of me before we got married. Because in my first marriage, I would literally say stuff like, I don't cheat. It's not that I don't cheat on my wife not because I love her so much. I don't cheat on my wife because I love God so much. And it's just like, what? That's some crazy stuff, you know? That's some crazy. Oh man, we get called all types of names. Wow, that's insane. I just reread that. That's wow. That's what? People are weird.
Yeah.
People are weird. But yeah, so atheist community should be a better way to connect, and where we're actually focusing on people. And I think 3 things that help us do that. Again, and I'm not just pulling this stuff out of thin air. This is stuff I've been thinking for years. How do you build? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was actually one of my biggest things, is why I often tell people that I'm not necessarily anti-religious, because I realize that religion is it's superstitious because we are, our religions are superstitious because the same reason our politics are superstitious, the amount of people, and our politics didn't just get superstitious with Donald Trump. They've been superstitious for a very, very long time. But that's because we're still superstitious. Some of us are still in the cave interpreting the shadows and believing that the shadows are the only way to interpret life, that there's nothing beyond those shadows, and they're afraid to look beyond those shadows. Man. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. And that's true. But that's that. Like I can, like, I'm trying to do my best not to exaggerate here, but I don't think I've met any atheists yet. And I'm sure there are some out there. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But I haven't met any atheists yet that are as bad of people as some of the Christians I've met. Like, because some of the Christians I met, they were just ugly. Like, I mean, like, truly ugly to people.
Gossiping.
Yes.
Goes on.
Yeah. I do try to be more gentle as well. It is. If we can't understand something, we make stuff up. This is absolutely a part of who we are. And so, which again is why my thing is now becoming mindful of superstition, so that because, hey, bruh, what you say, married to a black woman, right? Let me stop. But no, it's real. So it's something that we all deal with. And I think church just normalizes, and religion just does a good job of normalizing superstition, where we don't wrestle with it and we don't engage it. We don't critically think about it. I think me and Michael Apple was having that conversation about superstition, and if we'd ever be rid of it. And I'm like, I don't know if we'd ever be rid of it, but because to me, it's even this idea of absolutism, of having to know absolutely where we're going to be tomorrow. I feel like that's I feel like that comes out of our superstition as well, So I don't feel the need to know if we ever fully get rid of it. It's like, it's a part of the learning process. At first you don't know, and so you're tempted to assume. And if you have other friends who are willing to assume with you, well, then you get religion. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah. So just better way to connect. And so it should be open-minded. I mean, that's easy. All embracing, point blank, period. And truth led. And these were things, yep. But one obliter, yeah, that is. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, I do. I remember when Hawkins said that, and that's, I'm hoping we can create something that kind of create sort of a bridge, something that makes it easier for people to transition, safe place to land, and and then to kind of explore. So I don't feel the need to be necessarily militant against religion. I don't even feel the need to be militant against superstition. I just feel the need to be free to talk about these things, and to find other people who identify with these things, because number one, I'm not always so sure of my own thoughts, and you know that about me. Like I have to talk to other people a lot of times to kind of flesh out how I feel, especially when those thoughts are about other people. Like I shouldn't be, and this is just me, you may feel differently, but in my mind, I shouldn't be formulating ideas about people, that I'm not talking to other people about, and I like to get a better view. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is, freedom. And I think I shared in one of my shorts that one of the biggest things that I've gotten through my deconversion is I don't feel the pressure to agree with anybody. Yeah. And I don't feel judgment from disagreement, which in the church world, at least the black church world, no, there's this definitely a pressure to agree. If you don't agree, then you're like out of fellowship. You're out of alignment. How can two walk together unless they agree?
And that's good that you said that, because I was just going to get into, like, what about the mission of the secular community? And so the mission, again, should be a safe place.
Yeah, absolutely.
That hindrance come with disagreement.
Yes.
What do you disconnect over? Should you be disconnecting for those things?
Absolutely. So it's when you think of a good mission, I think, for secular community is creating a safe place where connection matters. And this is kind of foundational stuff, right? Creating a safe place where connection matters, which means disagreement shouldn't lead to disconnection, Yes. Oh yeah. That's good. Please give them time to process it. Don't magically get upset if they don't applaud you. That's real because it's like that. It's you have to. Here's the thing that I think a lot of us have a hard time wrestling with is you do have to give people the room to be human, and the type of human that they are. And so if you know that this human being believes certain things, then you can go ahead and kind of guess what that response is going to be like and kind of give them that space to have that response, give them that space to breathe through that because you'd want the same type of space, and so at the end of the day the goal should be to treat each other humanly. Now I was not able to preserve my relationship with my family, and that might be because maybe I'm too much of a stoic in a lot of ways, but I'm
But that also include a number of things over the
over
years.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's also it's something I realized about toxicity years ago. I realized at least for me that toxicity is anytime you get to a place where man oh yeah but when you get to a what was I gonna say? I just threw myself off. Oh, toxicity is when you get to a place where you want more for somebody else than they want for themselves.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to constantly make them be something. And so pulling away from this, I was able to kind of um reapproach that and realize that like no, one thing I can do is respect where they are in their lives.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I'm really good at now, but the way that I practice it is uncomfortable for some people because while respecting where you are in your life, I can also acknowledge that it's not very helpful for mine. It's not very beneficial for mine. And so that's what I've done there. But yeah, you do want to create something where disagreement doesn't lead to disconnection, where disappointment doesn't lead to disconnection, because we're human. We're going to disappoint each other. And I even went as far as to say where disgrace doesn't lead to disconnection. And even that word disgrace itself, it still has these type of superstitious connotations to it.
Yeah.
But it's just this idea that I think you will at some point, if you haven't already, do something that you're ashamed of. And as an adult, like you should just be able to deal with that. You shouldn't need a community of people to shame you even more.
Yeah.
Like that's just ridiculous. So but it's something that we definitely did a lot of in church. This
For the smallest thing.
oh my goodness. Because now we all know the big things like somebody getting pregnant, but you'd be surprised how many people got disgraced in church just over small things. Yep.
They're not going. Yeah.
Yep. That's I think we tried to go a few times and it was just like it was hard. I even tried to still watch church on television and I couldn't stomach the messages. And for me, like one of them, like the pastor literally, and he wasn't trying to, but there's so much so much pseudo intelligence in the church that these people don't be know. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, to be sure, imposter syndrome in full effect. But he was like telling the people to just everybody shout, "I'm impotent," and I'm like, "Oh no, that's probably not what you meant." But that's how he said it. That's how people typed it in the chat. We went to one church in Dothan, and it's a fairly large church, and the guy that was pastoring there, which he is no longer pastoring there, but the guy that was pastoring there was like, "Yeah, what we need to understand is that God is smart and we're stupid.
Yeah.
We're the stupid one." And my little girls looked up at me and were like, "Excuse me?" Oh, he must be talking about them because he ain't talking about us. We not stupid. But it was I'm amazed sometimes at what some people get away with preaching. But what you do see, the more you interact with a lot of this, is some of these people believe these things about themselves. Especially in my community, there are a lot of people in my community who believe that no, God is smart and we're stupid.
You misheard. Wow. Yeah.
Nope, that happened a lot. I could have been that preacher because I said stuff like that. Because at one point I did believe in demons. Yeah, it was yikes. It was yikes.
Okay, so how do we work to create that safe place?
All right. So these are some principles that I've kind of put together. Y'all tell me what you think. I think in order to create a safe place, we have to kind of define these words. And the first one is safe, right? And so safe means we're not putting anybody in danger of harm, which that sounds so simple. But that was actually one of the reasons I stopped pastoring. I felt, and I think this is why I am somewhat of we can talk about systematic theology. That is a conversation. I like that. But I one of the reasons I decided to stop pastoring is because I felt that the message was harmful. I felt that the doctrine itself, that this theology, that this idea was harmful. So one of the things about creating safe community is actually paying attention to, the harm prospect. Does this cause harm? Do not, right. Does this cause harm? Do no harm. That should be the first goal, which should help us. So that's safe, then soft, right? And some people are bothered by that word, but that just means people shouldn't be in danger of harm, and people shouldn't be in fear of aggression. You know what I'm saying? And you'd be surprised that that's not always what you get at church. Like now, if you're a member at a church and you're not heavily involved and it's a popular church, you're going to have a great experience.
Yeah.
It's going to feel like heaven for you. As you start working for that church and getting up there, oh, wow. Isn't that funny? There's been so many things. But as you work and get closer, you start getting exposed to a lot of aggression. Like one of the churches that I worked for, very popular church in Birmingham. The pastor walked in one day, which I wasn't too mad at because I give people the room to be human, and I was an atheist at that time anyway. But he walked in the room, and the staff had done something that he didn't like. It was a meeting that he was supposed to be going to, and he wanted them to go with him so that he wouldn't, look bad. It's really sad. He wanted like he had a crew. Like, because a lot of these pastors were just like class clowns when they were in school. That's actually why they're such effective pastors in a lot of ways. But that's right, or feel threatened or demeaned. But this dude, he walked into the office, and after they got mad, after he said something and was like, "Oh, y'all aren't doing what I told y'all to do." He said, "I'm getting tired of working with you stupid motherfuckers." And I was like, "Oh," and I looked at everybody else in the room, and I said, "Oh, he's talking to y'all." Cause I'm not gonna be nobody's stupid motherfucker. I don't play that game. No, man. Okay, so that I stopped pastoring the church that I founded the moment I became an atheist. Literally like the next week. I did stay involved in ministry for quite a time, off and on for the next 5 years. Actually, for the first year, because that was 2014 and 15. And then by 2016, I was no longer active, but I did pastor one church, Old Baptist church.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, "Oh, what's Baptist church?" And they're Old Baptist church, so they're not into the speaking in tongues things, and and what I remember about Baptist church,
closing the doors. Don't let nobody in during prayer.
Don't touch that. There's a special table that you can't touch. And apparently the baptism pool hadn't been touched in a while either, because there was a dead rat in it that we had to clean out. And when I say dead, I mean it was like almost nearly decomposed, like almost completely decomposed. So it ain't nobody. There was no life in that church. Ichabod was on the doors. Man, okay, so soft, not fearing and aggression. So lead with empathy. You have to, which you'd think that wouldn't be an issue in secular community, but that's one that I think we have to remind people of. Oh man. Well, see, what ministry is beautiful. Theology is the problem. Ministry is just service to people. That's all it is. At least that's how we practice it. It's the theological overtones and this imaginary friend, telling you what to think about other people. That's what makes it problematic. But I'll spend some time talking about that. Oh, I never thought about that. That was a question I would have never answered, but damn, I should have. Because then because I got baptized a few times, so I should have a few mentions.
I got baptized. I was not letting them dip me in water.
I lived in Alabama, so every time there was a water supply, I was in it. You know what I'm saying? And because again it was Alabama, because it was Alabama, like even when it would rain and water would get in the ditches, as a kid, I was playing in all of that. Oh man. Yep. Yep. Donating type of stuff. Because we did do a lot of donations. We did gas giveaways. We did clothes giveaways. But it's really just trying to find a way to be there for people. But again, the problem is your idea of being there for people is already shaped by these presuppositions about your imaginary friend. Oh, we're all getting multiple mansions in heaven. This is gonna be dope. We're gonna have the rich neighborhood. Now let me stop.
The pearly.
The pearly gates, right? I don't even like pearls.
So we had safe, soft.
Sound was just, and sound is kind of like safe too, like do no harm. But then soft is also like safe. People shouldn't be in fear and aggression. But sound means like let's not just be sharing stuff as absolute in lack of evidence, right? Like let's try to be as sound as we can. Man, God at God.gov. Oh, that is hilarious. Like I feel like that's gonna be Trump's email address next year. God at God. Like yikes.
The first
Man.
one didn't count.
Right? Oh man. Probably only if you're Catholic. This is hilarious. So sound, verify before share. Like just verify your information, make sure your information is sound. Man, churches would fall apart if they had to do that. If you couldn't just make stuff up as you went. Oh, as a baby. Oh, so then you didn't even get to enjoy your baptism then. Like that was torture then. If you got baptized as a baby, that's just torture. It's like these, yeah. And insecure. Secure is another part of safety, which means not in disregard for what is best for people. I think that's and because security is such a hard word, right? But that's the it's a progressive thing. You have to constantly be paying attention to what's best for people and allowing people to be the voice on that. You can't let God or the imaginary friend, be the thing that determines what's best for people. That's not a good thing. Oh man. Oh, aye. Okay, yep. I don't know if I was baptized as a baby. Dang, Section 8 homes if you're bruh. Oh, babe, and you didn't get baptized at all. Oh, so you're gonna be hurt. Oh man. Oh wow, that's funny. Okay, so and then I did add these other notes just because it's building a safe place where connection matters, but sometimes you may even have to explain like what does that mean? Like why does connection matter? And when I think, well, connection matters to us because we do need each other, like on a human level. I'm not talking about woozy land. I'm on a human level as a social species, as social creatures, we need each other, And believe it or not, like I have this harmonization framework that I teach, and a part of that harmonization framework is that Tupac did say that. He did say that. And Pastor Troy said, I wonder if heaven or hell, if heaven is hell and vice versa. Which I did not like that song when it came out, but man, I'm kind of digging it now. But yeah, so we need each other, that's and then connection actually breeds new possibilities. The more we actually get intentional about connecting and building together, then all of a sudden things that you may not have considered you could do or things that you would have never thought about doing before, you can do. And this isn't just church. These are the building blocks of civilization. This is how you build life. This is how life works. Which is getting me to a good place. We're going to share some things here. Yeah, connection matters to us because it increases our capacity to receive and to deliver. Connection is a natural. I like this. Black women don't do wet hair. Oh my goodness, what did I slip up on? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, godmothers and godfathers. Yep. Yeah, I never understood that one. That was difficult for me, and I have some of those. I am that for some people. I don't know why. I don't know why. But yeah, it's cute. It's cute. But connection is also a natural product of healing, kind of like the broken places, not in ourselves, but as a society. Connection is how we bond, though that trauma is how we heal some of those things that we've messed up on in our learning curve as being people, But in talking about the vision of secular community, I wanted to show you guys something. So let's pull up this, which some of you probably seen it before. I have it on the slide. but it's the DIKIW model. And this is basically is a model that kind of shows how we interrelate with information and how we basically move from data to wisdom. And but what I wanted you to see here is actually take a good look at it real quick. Draw it in, breathe it in. I feel like I should play some music so we can meditate. But if you look at this, though this is about wisdom, and I think that's great. I think this also shows us how community works and why community becomes necessary. The communities, I live in are much more like, or the communities I've been a part of the majority of my life are much more like data and information, where it's very much scattered. It's not connected. And the data spot is just like unfilled, right? Like you just have no sense of you, or you don't know who you are, what you want to do. And then you go to, you can switch to it if you need to, because I can't see it either. Yeah. Oh yeah, and it shows over that. Oh, I went through a period where I was trying not to eat pork. It did not last long. Let's be quiet in our hearts. I love that. But you do kind of, you kind of see, and then in the knowledge area is where you get somewhat of a healthy community, and that's where people are actually connected. Which is why, and that's something we kind of talked through when I was talking about why some churches grow well, is because they do a good job of connecting the people, creating opportunities for small groups and small group activities. But then it gets to insight, where you can now, it's more than just connecting the dots, but it's actually being able to know where points of contact are. Like you begin to know, like we say in the church, know those who labor among you. Yeah. You know what you have among you. So like if you look at these two yellow, I'm pointing like you can see my fingers like that. How slow am I? I've literally been pointing to each one of these like y'all can see my fingers. I feel like such a dunce right now. Like, wow. But so the insight one, and oh, my finger looks crusty that way. I put on lotion, I promise. But when you look at the insight one, it's like, oh, so you have a person over here who can do this, and you have a person over here who can do this. Oh, yeah, right? This is awesome, man. I like the pig. Will it be Porky? Oh, man. Oh, yes. I do like dark ambient. Actually, I like almost anything dark academia too. That's a thing for me. And then wisdom is being able to connect those resources. And so, even though this is about kind of how we grow in our understanding of knowledge, I wanted us to kind of look at this as a form of community building as well. This is what good community building does. It takes people who individual people who at first may not kind of know what they want to do with their lives, and you don't have to know, right? Because you're just figuring it out, you're exploring it, and then as those people start exploring, they get filled up a little bit more. There we go. Now we're getting filled up, and then you start getting these people connected, and then you start creating meaning in those connections. That's insight, and then you actually start creating routes. It is nice, right? Oh, visualizers are awesome. All right, now let's go to the next one. Because I like this one. This one is a little more sloppy. It's the same thing, but they've added impact at the end, and that's what I did like about that, because that's ultimately how this is how community works. This is all we're saying. We're saying secular folk come together, get connected, create meaning for yourself, and then make that meaning mean something, and that's how you make impact. Get that circle going, right? Like a lot of times, and mind you, this model originally used to be a pyramid. And then somebody had the great idea that this was actually a better visualization than the pyramid. And then I love whoever added the impact thing, because I think we should look at the pyramid structures as circles instead of pyramids. Instead of this being up and down, this is a in and out. And at the end of the in and out. And at the end of the day, it's just a big circle, and we're all a part of the circle. All right. And go to that last one. And I thought this one was just funny. All right. Which is why, hey, you can connect the dots in all the wrong places. There is that. So, yep. So this is wisdom, is where you get the healthy community, right? Where everybody's connected in a good understanding, and we can. But religion is how you get is the conspiracy theory one. All right, we could take those down. But I thought that was fun. It's good to see. It is good to see. Yes.
Those who have eyes, may you open.
May you use your eyes. You ain't got no eyes, Lieutenant Dan. Let me stop.
All right, so I love that connecting the dots.
Yes.
All right, and so getting into the exploration of the message and the strategy.
Yes. So it is. What is the difference? Right? Is kind of the question there. What's the difference between secular community and superstitious community, or as we said earlier, suspicious community? I like that. Auspicious, suspicious. It works. And I think I have three things here. It did look more attractive though, right? Like your eyes immediately wanted to go there. Like I want to play there. Like I want to be in that place. Like if that's the party I want to go to. Like let's just be honest. Conspiracy theorists. And I mean, they have some good parties. Now let me stop. What should be the difference? I think of three things, and I think most of you've heard me say these things before. And secular communities should, of course, be progressive thinking. You know, and that is, what we understand about the world should be subject to change with new information. That should be a major part of secular community. Is we should be progressive thinking. We should always be open. I mean, to me, like, and I want to be careful about saying should and we and always. But my idea is that we should be thinking. That is a swear word, right? Like, it's like, wow. Well, there used to be a progressive political party in the United States. There used to be more political parties, but and maybe we need that, but definitely progressive. Just and because I think that helps us not be dogmatic. That helps us, not get to the place where because we're even dogmatic, not just in our religion, we're dogmatic in our politics too.
Yeah.
Because if we shouldn't have to ask our founding fathers what they thought about anything to determine what we think about each other. You know what I'm saying? From a political perspective. So like that, to me, constitutions should be evolving documents that every generation. I just saw bacon and got hungry. But it should be constantly revisited. And so you even see some of that, even so you see that's not just with our religion and our politics. We're like, well, this is what our forefathers wanted. Well, hey, they dead. And they've been dead for a very long time. Fuck them. Okay? Let's deal with the people that are here. And I don't mean that like fuck them, but it's like fuck them like the SEALs you don't know anything about. You don't know nothing about them SEALs, but you really care, but like out of sight, out of mind. And so like we should be definitely more so focused on what's beneficial for people right now in the here and now. And every time we learn that something is more beneficial or something we're doing is not beneficial, we need to update it.
Yeah.
Quickly.
You just made my mind switch to Luther.
Luther.
Here and now.
Here and now. Oh yeah. Oh man, I wish maybe want to pull the keyboard out. Right. That is. Oh man, like yikes. That's just it's disgusting.
So we have progressive thinking.
Which brings us to that next one, and that was actually a great segue. People centric. Like that's me, and you hear me saying that a lot. Like, right, we should be open to being proven wrong. Yeah. I think a saying I started telling the children is that the rejection of correction is the abandonment of improvement. But because we don't correct in hard ways in our house anyway, it's just like, but our children actually like quotes like that anyway. But it's the idea. I always want to be doing better. That is weird.
Kind of reminds me of another thing you always say: inspect what you expect.
Oh yes.
So, even about revisiting
your ideas. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Hold on, I saw Jesus and weed. I want to see that again. Right, like a whole weed nap during slavery, and then he shot a weed. Like, I mean, what kind of rude kind of friend is this? But yeah, definitely people centric. So I know our idea when we think of secular community, we think of making sure that we're putting people at the center of our purpose, practices, and principles. And I think that's something that is a struggle right now in secular community for some. There are some. But I think somebody That's funny. I think somebody who's done a good job of that is who is an atheist is Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson does a good job of keeping people in mind when he's communicating. It's just it's funny to me. It's funny to me. And then this word may rub you the wrong way, and that's because I think when I started using this word, I didn't know that it had another connotation. But the word is life affirming. That's this phrase, life affirming. I'm very much life affirming. I didn't know that the pro life people was using that too, because I googled life affirming churches, and it was all these churches talking about abortion and stuff, and I was like, oh, that means something totally different to me. But then I think just pro life means something different to them because they're like a lot of them are really pro capital punishment, like really pro death penalty. So I don't understand how you're pro life, but I actually am, pro life in that sense that I am pro human life. Once we got verified life here, that like but I don't mean it just in life or death. I mean, I love the beauty of life. I love the beauty of individuals living their lives. I love people's autonomy. I love the fact that somebody else is living their life differently than I may be living my life. It is an incredible learning opportunity for me. It is absolutely beautiful for me. So life affirming for me is just having a positive, right? That's crazy, right? Pro-life for me is, or life affirming for me is as having a positive appreciation for life as it can be, as it is, and in all the shades and varieties that it may come in. Just being excited about life as individuals. Our lifestyles and our worldviews are shaped by so many different things, man. And so I just have an appreciation for that. And so creating that, or better yet, better defining that, life affirming means that it should be inclusive, right?
Yeah.
That we shouldn't participate in any forms of discrimination on any grounds for any reasons.
Yeah.
No. Like I think one of the freeing things about me as becoming an atheist is that I realize that's right. They are anti-abortion. That is exactly what that is. I think one of the things for me is realizing that, oh, my opinions about other people's lives really don't matter. That was a free thing for me. Getting away from religion. Yes. 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 I mean, yeah. But see, here's the thing. Everybody should have a right to have their thoughts on these things, right? It's just that at no point should my thoughts about this deprive somebody else of access.
Right.
And I don't know, like the moment I became an atheist, like that became clear to me. Pro forced birth. Yes. It became clear to me. Like, if it's not even my life to live, why am I legislating their life in that way?
Right.
That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. That was you, because you remember I had that thought about gay people, and I was like, whoa, like I don't actually have any real reason to think anything about gay people. So why would I even allow myself to have these opinions? Just because I read it in some dusty book?
Right.
That's not the type of person I want to be. I don't want a people like that. And so it should be inclusive, right? It should also be inviting, everything it should just people should feel like they're wanted, and that's something in the secular community we got to work on, because I think the church did have a head start there. Yeah. Yes. Yes. What's up, fam? We need some empathy. God dang, we need some empathy. And then invest it. So I think to make a community really life affirming, it needs to be inclusive, it needs to be inviting, and you need to be invested in each other. Like we need to be invested in people living their lives and getting the most out of their lives. We need to be invested in understanding each other's story. I am cracking up over here. Wow. Wow. No, and that is so true. That is so true. But then I think something that I've heard a lot of women say, and I never thought about it until women started saying it, but it's like, hey, if you don't have a uterus, you probably shouldn't be telling us what, and I'm like, oh, that does, because I don't have one, and I wouldn't, I don't know, so it's just like, no, the the people who this impacts should be the people who have the most voice on this.
Yeah.
I don't know why the people who are the most vocal on this subject are people without uteruses. That is really weird to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you know, those are like red flags, right? That's a red flag. When you're talking about doing something, making a law that does not impact you, that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, ugh. All right, so oh, okay, yeah, I do want to hit this.
Giving.
Yeah, like how do you deal with giving in secular community? And I think we're already dealing with it though, because as we see, man, yeah, right. Like, yeah, that is the part that you go through. It's just like, dang, so they're not being punished forever? Oh darn. You know, oh snap. So I did want to hit giving. Now, I may have mentioned this in some of my videos before, but I did not talk about money as a preacher. I was very uncomfortable. And here's why, and this is me being absolutely honest. I was afraid of being accused of being like just wanting money, you know? So I was just like, yeesh. That did not do well. Wasn't a good idea. So, yeah. Doesn't exist. Not there. Nope. Nope. There's nothing in the box. It's like Schrodinger's God. Is there a God in the box or is there not a God in the box? Was there a God in the box before I opened the box and then it left the box when I opened it? You know? But so, oh yeah, man. It's like wow.
But I can see how giving could be a touchy subject, but that's because it hasn't been taught from a practical standpoint.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any good conversations on it at all.
I mean, in church, you have to pay for the building, you have to pay for lights.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to pay for food. Even the children's ministry, they have staff, and so.
And remember, I used to watch this. I used to tell pastors, and this was after I had deconverted. I would tell pastors, I would say, hey, instead of telling them to give because God is going to bless them, why not? Right? I literally could. Why not tell them the practical reasons that you need this money and talk through it that way? And that just never happened, you know. But I did have a lot of observations, and so there's some things that I took note of about giving, you know, in secular community, and you see this happening now. It's already beautiful, and so there's basically 4 levels of giving that I've seen. And maybe y'all have seen less levels or more levels. I'd be interested in hearing. But the first level of giving, which is some of you do this right now for our channel, and I'm like incredibly appreciative for it because it's amazing to me. But it's charity giving, right? And in charity giving, it's just where people are giving just because, hey, wow, it's because I like what you're doing. Like I have a heart for what you're doing. What you're doing, it tugs on my heartstrings. And so that's charity, right? And that comes from your supporters. But then there's this other level of giving that's responsibility giving, right? And so if you that's what the tithe was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But because like superstition is such a slippery slope, once you don't need evidence for believing one thing, it's all downhill from there. That is right. That is right. That's scary. But that's right. That is right. But yeah, so responsibility. And those are people who are giving. It's beyond heart. Like you go to that point where you're like, no, I'm giving because I have a hand connection to the work. Yeah. I want to see this happen. Yeah. And then you have people who just give out of generosity, and you know, and that's just like, but typically generosity is different. Like, because generosity isn't just nice, right? Yeah. I'm a generous person. But I don't just go give money to everybody. You know, like I don't think any of us do that. Generosity it's like having a mind connection to the word. You understand what those people are trying to do, and you understand what it needs to succeed. Yeah. That's where generosity. Yeah. But I think one of the biggest problems that church has made when teaching on giving, or when talking about giving. Yep, they did that a lot. I remember that. The Baptist church we pastored, they had, remember some of the pews had names on them? Yeah. And then some of the bricks had names on them? That's how that happened. Dang. What was I about to say? I was about to say something, and it's not in my notes, but it was,
You're talking about generosity. people giving because they want to see it.
Because they want to see it succeed. Yeah, 2004 brick, right? Yeah, it was something, man. Oh no, I know what it was. What I think is really disingenuous about churches is that when they do have these conversations about money, and mind you, some churches do yeah, some churches do financial conferences. Some churches do bring in people to try to help people budget and stuff like that, but a lot of time it's superstitious people who are doing it, and so there still is this just pray and trust the Lord aspect in it as well. But I think a lot of times when churches talk about giving, they don't also talk about income, in the sense. And when I say income, I'm not talking about how much you made. I'm talking about income levels. Like so, if you're at a certain income level, it is absolutely okay for you not to be generous. And I think churches should have, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, baby, if you're on a fixed income, then we don't necessarily need the generosity to come from you.
Yeah.
That generosity shouldn't be your burden. You know, if you're in between jobs, the church shouldn't be surviving off of your generosity. Like this may sound wrong, but like I believe there's a point where you cannot afford to be generous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you got fairly godparents who are going to take care of you, you know,
And that's okay. You gotta know where you are.
you have to know where you are. I don't think churches did enough or do enough to let people know it's okay if you broke not to give.
Yeah.
Like that's
not feel like you're gonna be hindered or
yeah.
attack, not love.
Well, you gonna feel like God is watching you not give, and God is gonna punish you for not giving your money to that church, and that's ridiculous. Like, God damn, that's horrible. You know. So and then of course there are people who give out of philanthropy. You know, and that those are people who are like sponsors, and they literally give because they have an overflow. You know, and like
That's where you want to be.
that you know. All right, so we're gonna Fairly Odd Parents. Yeah, you know. Timmy is an average kid. No one understands. I used to like it, and I think I was in high school, so that's a little embarrassing, right? How do you come to know of these levels, and why are you amongst us apes? You know, who knows? Who knows? But basic questions of building community on purpose, and that's and this is definitely something that I've looked at over the years, and I think sometimes we do I know
it's me. I gotta lean in.
I keep telling her, Aunt Jer. Uh, but whether you're building community somewhere, yeah, absolutely, and that I like that better. I do like that better. Well, I just like I like doing things that have a purpose and doing things that are connected to stuff and doing things that are connected to building better outcomes. You know. But I think one of the if you're gonna build community, whether you're building community, whether you are where you are, whether you're building community, you know, online, or whether you're just a part of this, because we're all building community at the end of the day. I think here's some things that when you're thinking about strategy that you may want to consider, and you know, this comes from both corporate side, sociological side, and some of my church stuff. But intake, assimilation, acquisition, involvement. These are like key areas. Okay, I'm gonna say them again because I kind of like that rhythm. Intake, assimilation, acquisition, involvement. These are 4 key areas that are very important. Yeah, there's no slides for those. That are very important, you know, and actually trying to build anything intentionally. If you're trying to build community intentionally, how do people join the community? That's the intake question. The intake question is, how do people join, and what is that experience like for them? Again, the seeker friendly popular churches, the way that those teams have learned how to pay attention to people is commendable, because a lot of them have reshaped their entire, you know, intake process for how people join and interact with their church, and it's a very people centric process. And so and that's what it boils down to. It's like, oh, so whether people are joining your community, you know, through a website, through a link, you know, or joining through a form, you think about ways you can, you know, think about ways that form may make people feel, you know. So it's all we're all built Right. Oh yeah, I do. I was actually going to be a religious hermit at one point. I think that was going to be like a goal. But yeah, how do people join? What is that experience like? And can you make it fun, or can you make it meaningful? Can you make it engaging? It doesn't have to be fun because everybody doesn't like fun, and that's a major thing about community, is that it does mean something different to everybody, and that's why groups are important. Assimilation, helping people get acclimated to your community. Of course, it's harder to do in the beginning because in the beginning you still don't know what the hell your community is. You're just kind of figuring it out, and it's just like we're just people. But it's almost like birds who begin to fly together. Eventually, that you get enough of you together where you can get in formation, and that formation is an emergent property, and that community, in the same way, is kind of like that. Community begins to take on an identity of its own as an emergent property, and that, yeah, fun and meaningful, absolutely. That stuff is important. Like I think that's what I'd want to do.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
like I know, when I pastored, and I was reading a lot of books, and there was some excellent books out there. There's a book called The 5 Star Church. I don't even know if it's still in print. But and again, this is why I tell a lot of people, a lot of what you see in churches, which, I mean, some of you know this, it isn't coming from the voice in their head. They're reading people who have written about this stuff, who are paid attention. And so it was about people learning how to. The whole book was about paying attention to the five star hotel treatment,
Yeah.
and teaching churches how to reframe their approach to people. Because there was at one point, like, there are a lot of churches that are very mean to people, a lot of churches that are very nasty to people, a lot of churches that like they treat people coming to their church as an inconvenience. And so 5 Star Church was like a pivotal book that helped churches. I do advise anybody who's trying to build community, period, to take that one out, check that one out. That's funny. I like it. Fake cure for a fake diagnosis. I love it. So yeah, assimilation. How does the community engage or celebrate new members? Um, how do you what information might be helpful to people joining your community? What would help them make the most out of it?
And that's a good one because it talks about intentionality too. Like,
Absolutely.
you want to make sure what value they're getting.
Yep.
What are you going to give in the first place? So
Because I remember in the church world, a lot of churches have new members processes. Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny. They have new members processes, right? And a lot of churches had those processes and had no clue what they were doing. Had no clue, and so they weren't very effective.
yeah.
But the churches because they felt like this was another indoctrination moment. And so that's what new member classes used to look like for churches. Here's what we believe. Here's why we believe this. You need to believe
Yeah.
this too. And at the end, you're going to take a test that we can make sure you believe it. But a lot of the smarter churches, smarter. Yeah. But a lot of the more progressive churches did start saying, well, that's probably not the important thing. And so they redid their new membership to be more of an orientation to that community.
Yeah.
So here are the things that we have going on in the community. Here are ways you can get involved and things of that nature. So it's really just taking that very intentional step,
Absolutely.
And then acquisition. And, my wife is in talent acquisition. I was also in talent acquisition for a while. And so, oh yeah. And so I just this one is important to me, but it's also one that's also important. It's the question of how can the unique interests, skills, talents, hobbies, etc. of the people coming in contribute to the strength or the vibrancy of the growing community. Unless we're just going to get together and drink coffee all the time, then nothing else is needed,
And
right?
talk and leave.
Yeah, we're just gonna talk and leave. Then but you want to think about those things that if you're building community, as you're building community, like it's the individuals that make the community vibrant, and so it's those individuals' unique skill sets, talents, abilities, hobbies. It's those things that kind of make things interesting. And I'm tempted to give a list of things, but instead of giving a list, of course, like coffee is good, right? But of course, the idea is like you can do anything. You can I used to joke about, like, if somebody just makes really good chicken, then hey, then you can make chicken for the community. And because we're not superstitious, nobody has to believe you're just going to make the chicken out of the goodness of your heart. We can all give you some money for the chicken. We can, that was like, it's really easy to be poor as a Christian because everybody really believes that no, the moment you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart, you shouldn't be paid for it. And I'm like, that sounds like slavery. Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, it's finding things that people do. Churches did do a good job at this in a lot of ways, especially the growing ones, because there was music. But I remember when you and I were growing up, it wasn't just singing; it was dancing, step teams, acting, drama, plays. And I mean, the hard part was it all had to be about the Super Ghost. But now imagine all the types of creative things you can do when you're just out of the damn box. You're just out of the box. So it's like you can make a drama about whatever, but it doesn't even have to be limited to just entertainment things. You can start a bowling team. You can do all types of things. The options are literally limitless. Yep. Well, we definitely know how that worked, right? Right. Well, we're not doing things out of the goodness of their own heart, but expecting people to do things out of the goodness. To say that if someone's doing it out of the goodness of their heart, they shouldn't be paid. That is slavery. And that is how a lot of people treat pastors, unfortunately. Not the mega church pastors, of course, because they wouldn't be mega church pastors. But no, a lot of pastors are treated like, well, if you're doing this, I mean, and think about it. Some atheists have even said this to pastors, that you shouldn't be getting paid for what you do. But yet you don't believe that about motivational speakers. You don't. Oh, dancing, yes. You don't believe that about business coaches. You don't believe that about anybody else who who has a career off of communication. And so that's a thing that's kind of steeped in superstition. But yes, there are people who treat their pastors like slaves. If God is the one telling you to do this, then nope. And it's like, oh no, that's crazy. So yeah, that's the part for me that sounds like slavery. And then involvement, and we've kind of hit this throughout this conversation. What does long-term community involvement look like, and how does it benefit the individuals and groups that make up the community? I think these are questions that we often don't. I am too. I mean, I can speak in tongues with the best of them. Like Paul, I spoke in tongues more than you all. Let me stop. Yeah, even Paul whined about not getting paid. He said, "You can't muzzle the ox that feeds you now. You can't. Oh no, you can't muzzle the ox that threshes the corn, or something like wheat, or something. It's in there." But yeah, it's what does long-term community involvement look like? And I think that's the question that has to be wrestled with for everybody, because that's not something that one person can answer. Like, I can't just say, well, long-term community should look like this. Community decisions have to come from community conversations, community experience, community engagement. The more you engage each other, the more you begin to figure out what types of opportunities that exist and what things you can do. I mean, I think at one time we went and gave out condoms at the nightclub at a church. Like, when I was my church did this. And we weren't the only church who did stuff like that. But it was like, oh, this is something we can do. It's something we can do to be visible. But just no, what does community involvement look like? I do think that churches still struggle with that one themselves. Um, right? Yeah, it's definitely something serious. He didn't want a wife. He had a thorn in his flesh that he wouldn't tell nobody what it was. So yeah, I got some thoughts about Paul. But yeah, it's defining, what do you want to do with community. So I did, and the churches who have beat that one, who have done well in that, are churches who've built small groups. And it's like, what at the end, what do you want to do with community? Well, at the end of the day, you just want to grow together. That's it. You just want to grow together. That's and in whatever ways that mean. I think that will be one of the biggest advantages that secular community will have over superstitious community, is that you won't have a box. You can literally do whatever the fuck you want to do that the people want to do. Yes.
We play Kahoot at work.
Like I literally. I literally wanted to do a Kahoot for this one, but I just did not have the bandwidth to create one. But that is, yes, you got to take advantage of your tools, right? And so, man, and a modest 19th centuries. I love that. That is hilarious. Yeah, because that's really the purpose of community, is just doing life together and being intentional about it, and respecting everybody's way to do that. So we are at the end. I'm finna close now. I feel that I've preached a little long today. Now, I actually wasn't one of those type of preachers at all. Now I did hoop now, but my latter years I did become somewhat of a hooping preacher, but I was never one of those now who would talk about Mary's little lamb. And you, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Oh man, yes, yeah. And that's why small groups are important, and a lot of the popular churches have figured that crap out. Yeah. That's why the small groups are important. This is the time. Will there be one? I wish I could remember how I used to close services at Kingdom Central, but man, but this is our close, and this is something that I just call it. You don't have to put it on the screen. I just call it. It's the people, stupid. It was a very right. It was a very frank revelation or realization for me. And it's really what kind of motivates everything that we do. And so I wanted to read this. Is that the first sentence? All right. What sets us apart from religious organizations and institutions? And it's like, that's the question. Other than our intentional focus on doing our best to abide in truth, it would have to be our unapologetic understanding of religion and all religious content as inspired and created by people, for people, and preserved by people's agendas. In consideration of the fact that every entity that is worshipped is ultimately focused on and even obsessed with the everyday lives and outcomes of people. Even when observing the most heinous ills of religious instruction, the once hidden motivations of poor-minded humans can now be clearly seen. That's the big point. That religion has always been about people. And that understanding is our big difference. In 2014, a simple decision was made that became foundation to our vision. That we would make doing what's best for people our priority. That we would be committed to helping people make the best decisions and build the best versions of themselves as they saw fit. When religion is harmful, it is the people who both perpetuate the pain and suffer the consequences. When religion is beneficial, it is the people who distribute the goodness and the people who reap the benefits. Religion is at its worst when people are at their worst. Religion is at its best when people are at their best. Life is at its worst when people are at their worst. And life is at its best when people are at their best. If we want to make a positive contribution to the world and the generations after us, we must do so by helping people be their best selves and run their best race as they see fit. That's our spiritual commitment. If I ever had one, that's it. That's our guiding purpose. We keep that at the forefront of our minds. It's the people, stupid. So that if and when ourselves or others will question our motivation, to ask, if not for heaven or for hell, then why do you do this? Our answer will always be clear and true. It's the people, stupid. That's the whole point. Whew. Wow.
That was good, Doc.
Thank you. It's been on my mind for a long time. It's the work that we want to do. But with that being said, I'm done. I'm tired.
Thank you.
How did y'all hang out? How did y'all hang out with us this whole time? Like, that is beautiful. That's, man, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Come on now. Blessed be. Blessed be.
For the closing announcements,
Mm-hmm.
did you like? Did you share?
Oh, yes.
Did you subscribe?
Yes.
Okay, what you waiting on?
And we have merch. We have merch.
We appreciate you all.
Oh yeah, man. Y'all are absolutely amazing. Y'all make these conversations feel so natural. And that, you know, I did a live this week, and I kind of told you about what I was struggling with. And this was one of the outcomes that came out of that struggle. Is I decided that on Sundays we just go live and we just share it, so that way we can actually engage with our audience, which is something I wasn't able to do before. So I absolutely love this. This is beautiful. Oh, that is beautiful. That blesses my heart in so many ways. Let's go eat. Yes, I am. I actually am starving. But thank y'all so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful time. And until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful.
Yeah.